What would you do if you won the lottery tomorrow? Would it change your life? Or
In the
completely
back.
destroy it?
If you don't believe us,
This year
if
on
someone
Millionaire
tells
Post,
you money
we
doesn't
uncovered the
change
most
people,
shocking
tell
lottery
them
stories.
about these 7
Some went
lotteries.
from
What
riches to
happened
ruin,
next
while
just
others ended in
when
ways you
Edwin
won't
Castro from California won the biggest
for the
Powerball
wildest, realest,
jackpot
and
of
most
all time.
unbelievable
Edwin
lottery stories of
himself
2025.
thought his life winning the
Spoiler,
lottery
not all of
doesn't
them have
always
happy
mean you
endings.
get the money.
But for Mavis Wanchik, a Massachusetts hospital worker, winning $758 million in the Powerball lottery became a nightmare.
This is God.
Overnight, Mavis became one of the wealthiest people in the country, catapulted above celebs like Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. But with the newfound wealth came unexpected attention, scrutiny, and danger. Mavis soon discovered that winning the lottery wasn't all it's cracked up to be. The winning moment. It was August 23, 2017, and Mavis was leaving work with her friend Rob. She bought 5 tickets 4 days earlier, but hadn't watched the draw live, as she never imagined she could win.
Calling her boss tonight and revealing how she chose those numbers.
As she put it, it's never going to be me. It's just a pipe dream that I've always had. Rob checked the numbers though, and he noted something. I bet you someone won with these numbers as birthdays. The exact method Mavis had used to pick hers. So she got out her tickets and checked them against the numbers Rob was reading out. 6, 7, 16, 23, and 26. Key dates from her family's birthdays. Plus the Powerball number 4, the number she used at Keno every Friday night. Mavis was in disbelief and handed her ticket to her friend for confirmation. She hadn't just won a few $100. She matched all 6 numbers, the odds of which are just 1 in 292.2 million. She'd won the jackpot, a jaw-dropping $758 million, almost $1 billion. In shock, Mavis didn't know how to react. Fortunately, her friend Rob was a firefighter and could keep his cool in stressful situations. His first instruction was to sign her ticket straight away, which she did. Then she needed to go home. Rob was pretty sure she was good to drive, but just in case, he followed her back to her house. Once she'd been safely escorted, she called her son to share the good news, then rushed over to her sister's house to present the winning ticket. She'd been playing the lottery for more than 20 years, and it had finally paid off. Of course, at this stage, she had no idea how many people played her lucky numbers.
For 7 hours, lottery officials said this is where that winning lottery ticket was sold, but it turns out it was actually sold an hour and a half away.
And, therefore, how many she'd be sharing the prize with. So just how much had she won?
We still had $1 million winner, so that's better than nothing.
Claiming the money. To find out, she had to travel to the Massachusetts State Lottery headquarters and claim her prize. There, lottery officials confirmed her win, and more importantly, that she was the only jackpot winner of the draw. She didn't have to share, and the whole prize was hers, $758.7 million, the largest win on a single ticket in U.S. history at the time. The next step was to make the big decision: take the lump sum or opt for the annual payments and 5% interest. Financially, taking the cash in one go makes much more sense, as investing it will generally provide a much higher return. But yearly payments are a great option for those worried they might be unable to control themselves with their newfound wealth. Fortunately, Mavis was a level-headed woman. She'd grown up comfortable, not rich, not poor, and lived a modest lifestyle. While many would race to spend their millions on mansions, sports cars, and lavish holidays, Mavis simply wanted to pay off the loan on her existing vehicle and retire early. So, she took the cash payment of $758 million and, after taxes, received a whopping $336 million. This gave her a net worth higher than some countries like Micronesia and the Pacific Islands of Palau, not to mention most A-list celebs. Like many of us, her first move was to ring up her boss at the nursing department at Mercy Medical Center, where she'd worked for 32 years, and tell him she would not be coming back. "I had a pipe dream, and my dream has finally come true," she said. "I wanted to retire in 12 years, and it came early." While down-to-earth Mavis would have preferred to relish her early retirement, relax at home, and figure out what to do next, she was quickly swept up in a media storm. Nearly every advisor would tell lottery winners to remain anonymous or at least delaying coming forward until the media storm had quieted down. But everyone was excited, including the state of Massachusetts, which stood to make $24 million off the win, and Mavis was talked into a press conference within just 24 hours. There, they presented her with an oversized check for her millions. It was a massive event, with news cameras from all over the country capturing the moment. Mavis, supported by her mother and two sisters, was met with a frenzy of questions about her numbers the moment she found out and what she planned to do with the money.
I've called them and told them I will not be coming back.
The cameras were flashing, the reporters were shouting at her, but Mavis took it all in her stride. She was calm, cool, and collected, even though her life had just made a mind-boggling turn for the better. When she was asked how she planned on celebrating that evening, she joked, "I'm gonna go hide in my bed."
The first thing I want to do is I just want to sit back and relax, and I had a pipe dream, and my pipe dream has finally come true. I wanted to retire in 12, and it came early.
For many, an early announcement is a red flag indicating an overexcited winner wanting to show off to the world and blow their money on champagne, designer clothes, and fast cars. But for Mavis, it was simply a very naive mistake. I just wanted to do this. I wanted to just get it over and done with, and then everybody would just leave me alone. Of course, that didn't happen, and she was quickly left fearing for her life. The aftermath. Everyone, including Mavis, knows that a lottery win doesn't always equal a lifetime of wealth. Take William Bud Post, for example. He won $16.2 million in the Pennsylvania lottery in 1988, and within a few years, he was bankrupt and on food stamps. Or David Lee Edwards, who won $27 million in the Powerball lottery in 2001 and quickly squandered it all on lavish homes, fancy cars, and frivolous expenses. Within a few years, he was broke and living in a storage unit. Mavis knew these cautionary tales well and sought out professional advice. Happily, she wasn't the type to blow her fortune, but unfortunately, she couldn't control the media attention and the general public.
I want to have your baby.
I know your mama.
Suddenly thrown into the public eye, with her face plastered on newspapers and television screens across the country, reporters were calling her non-stop for interviews, and everyone wanted a piece of her. Everywhere she went, people were staring at her, asking her for autographs and selfies. She couldn't leave her house without being recognized, and even her friends and family members were calling her non-stop for money. Mavis felt like she was suffocating under the weight of her newfound wealth and fame. Even people that she used to deeply care about turned foul and violent after she won. They saw her as nothing but an ATM. Sadly, it didn't just stop with the people she knew. People from all over the country started hunting for her contact information. One even called Chicopee Police Public Information Officer Michael Wilk, telling him an obviously fake sob story and asking him to request money from Mavis on their behalf. He refused and hung up. But that was just the beginning. In the days after the press conference, strangers started showing up in her neighborhood, trying to track her down. They went door to door, asking people if they knew where Mavis lived, and her long-term home and sanctuary suddenly became a very dangerous place for her to be. The police were forced to increase patrols in her neighborhood and even stationed officers outside her house, hoping the increased visibility would deter those with bad intentions. Fortunately, it worked, and Mavis escaped any physical confrontations. Unfortunately, those looking to cash in on her win took their hunt online. Attempted scams. Scammers began crawling out of the woodwork to try to take advantage of her newfound fame and fortune. Phone calls, emails, and letters began pouring in, all claiming to be from people looking to share in her good fortune. Mavis was inundated with messages from strangers asking for money, promising to invest her winnings for her, and even threatening her and her family if she didn't comply with their demands. It was a dark side of her sudden fame that she could never have anticipated. The scammers were persistent, and they came in all shapes and sizes. Some claimed to be from charitable organizations, while others promised access to exclusive investment opportunities. It was overwhelming, and Mavis found herself constantly on guard, never knowing who to trust. Despite the stress and fear that came with being targeted, Mavis refused to let them win. She reached out to law enforcement officials who worked tirelessly to identify and prosecute those responsible. She found support from her family and close friends who helped her deal with the constant attention, and then hired a legal team and other advisors to keep her away from scams. She also made a conscious effort to give back to her community, donated a portion of her winnings to charity, and set up a scholarship fund for students pursuing careers in healthcare. Frustratingly, the scammers were smart, and when they realized that Mavis wasn't going to fall for their cons, they decided to turn things around. Identity theft. Online scams are a numbers game. The vast majority of people will never fall for a phishing or financial scam that arrives in their inbox, but a minority will. This means that all scammers have to do is target enough people, and they'll eventually receive a payout. This is why targeting Mavis didn't work. She was just one person who was expecting it, and was now surrounded by financial advisors and law enforcement. So instead, scammers started using her name in press conference videos to attempt to con others. Just days after her win became public knowledge, the emails started landing in people's inboxes. Some were short and to the point, like, "Congratulations! You've been granted a charitable donation of $40 million by Mrs. Mavis Wanchik to be transferred in the next few days. Please contact her for more information at maviswanchik23@gmail.com. Thanks." Others were more sophisticated, detailing her past and wish for a modest life, claiming, "I've decided to do God's work after having a long conversation with some ministers of God and prayer sessions. I want you and your family to be happy, as we are happy today. We have voluntarily decided to donate the sum of $5 million for you and your family as part of our own charity project to help increase the fortune of 14 lucky people around the world." One even tried to cash in on the tragic death of Mavis's ex-husband by saying she had set up a donation program in his name, and the recipient of the email could enter a raffle for their chance of winning €4.2 million. Of course, to enter, the email recipient had to reply with their full name, email address, phone number, and information about their occupation. These phishing scams managed to harvest a wealth of private information that could later be used for fraud. And they didn't just stick to email. Hundreds of fake Facebook and Instagram accounts were set up in Mavis's name. Many came with a bio like, "Lottery winner of $758 million, giving back $5,000 to the first 100,000 followers. This is too much money for me, and I love helping people." This particular account ended up with 54.7 thousand followers. While following a fake Instagram isn't going to cause anyone to lose their savings, tragically, some were taken in by the scams. One victim was contacted by a Mavis account offering $15,000. All he had to do to claim the money was pay some fees, amounting to $3,786 in untraceable bit currency. Unfortunately, he fell for it and transferred the money. When the $15,000 didn't arrive, he paid another $300 to expedite the check. Then the scammers turned nasty and demanded access to his Facebook account and $500, or they'd turn the victim in to the FBI. The fake accounts became such a problem that the Chicopee police were forced to release a statement warning residents not to follow or respond to any messages supposedly from Mavis. Then Mavis herself went public with the story, warning others about the dangers of falling prey to the lottery scammers and encouraging people to report any suspicious activity. She made it clear that she would not be reaching out to anybody randomly and offering free money.
Number 7. The divorce secret. Let's start with Denise Rossi, who thought she had life figured out until the day she became a millionaire. The crazy thing is, she decided her husband didn't need to know about her big win. Denise won $1.3 million in the California lottery back in 1996. But instead of celebrating with her family, she made one crazy decision. Just 11 days after hitting the jackpot, she filed for divorce. That's right, not 11 weeks, not months. In less than 2 weeks after becoming rich, she decided to ditch her husband just so she could keep all the money. Her husband, Thomas Rossi, was completely blindsided. He thought they were doing fine. There were no warning signs for him. Then, out of nowhere, she walked out pretending she just needed a change. Denise went the extra mile to hide her win. She opened a secret P.O. box to receive her lottery checks, and she told the state lottery office to keep her win confidential. For 2 years, she got those checks secretly and guilt-free. That peace didn't last long. One day, Thomas got a letter meant for her. It was from a company that helps lottery winners manage lump sum payments. That's when he realized he had been living in a lie. He took her to court, and when the truth came out, the judge wasn't amused. Denise had violated California's asset disclosure laws during the divorce. Her punishment was that she had to give her husband every single dollar of her winnings. Well, Denise's story ended in disaster. The next winner actually managed to outsmart almost everyone, including her own family. Number 6. Jane Doe. The winner from New Hampshire never wanted fame, attention, or drama. She just wanted to cash her $560 million Powerball ticket and disappear quietly. But it wasn't that simple. When she realized that she had the winning ticket in 2018, she did something no one had ever done before. She went to court to hide her name from the world. She didn't want her family, friends, or even distant cousins showing up with so-called emergencies that suddenly needed money. The law in New Hampshire required lottery winners to reveal their identity. But this woman didn't back down. She hired lawyers and sued the state, arguing that revealing her name could put her safety and privacy at risk. She even said that she wanted to live her life normally by going shopping, traveling, and visiting relatives. She wanted to do all that without being seen as a walking ATM. The case dragged on for weeks. Everyone wanted to know who this mystery millionaire was. Reporters camped outside the lottery office, speculating about her. Family members probably had no idea she was the one they were all talking about. In the end, the court sided with her. She was allowed to stay completely anonymous by claiming the money under a trust called the Good Karma Family Trust. She collected her winnings quietly and vanished from public view. Till today, her name has never been revealed. But you have to understand that she was not greedy, she just wanted peace. Because when money this big comes in, your family can turn into a crowd faster than you can blink. And this next man from China learned that lesson the hard way. Number 5. Anonymous Chinese husband. In 2023, a man from Nanning, Guangxi, China, became an overnight millionaire after winning 10 million yuan. That's around 1.5 million US dollars. But instead of celebrating with his wife, he put on his lucky costume, collected the prize, and went home like nothing happened. He actually showed up at the lottery office wearing a bright yellow cartoon costume to hide his identity from everyone, including his own family. The photos went viral, but no one could tell who he was. He didn't tell his wife, his kids, or anyone close to him. For months, he pretended life was normal. But behind the scenes, he was quietly transferring money to his sister and ex-wife, trying to hide his new fortune forever. It's because his marriage wasn't doing great. He was planning to file for divorce and didn't want his wife to get half of the winnings. So he lied about everything. But when his wife eventually found out, she took him straight to court. Chinese law sees lottery winnings as joint property if you're married, and the judge agreed. The wife got her share, and the man's secret life came crashing down. He said in court that he only hid it because he didn't want to share the money. The internet roasted him for it. Some called him heartless. Others called him stupid for thinking he could hide $1 million win forever. Still, you have to admit, showing up in a mascot costume to collect your money while pretending to be broke at home is next level sneaky. But while this man's greed destroyed his family, the next winner from South Dakota pulled off a completely different kind of secrecy. Number 4. The clever winner. This is Neil Wanless, a cowboy from Mission, South Dakota, who went from living on a rundown ranch to becoming one of the youngest Powerball winners in history. In 2009, Neil won a massive $232 million jackpot. But unlike most winners, he didn't go shouting from the rooftops or even tell his relatives right away. Neil lived a modest life before the win. He collected scrap metal to help pay bills and was months behind on his property taxes. When he won, he could have easily become the loud, flashy type. But he didn't. Instead, he quietly met with financial planners, bought back his family ranch, and started paying off debts, all while keeping his new status as a multimillionaire a secret. For months, hardly anyone knew the truth. Locals noticed small changes, like his truck looked newer, his clothes cleaner, but nothing extreme. He never moved to a mansion or bought private jets. He just fixed up the land he already loved. When reporters finally caught up with him, Neil gave one short interview, saying he was grateful and planned to use the money to rebuild his life. After that, he disappeared from the spotlight completely. He didn't want to hide the money out of greed or fear. He hid it because he didn't want his relationships to change. But this wasn't the case with the next winner. Number 3. The Hateful Ex. This is the story of a man who thought the worst was behind him after his divorce. 10 long years in a marriage that drained him, both financially and emotionally. When it finally ended, his ex-wife walked away with the car, half the savings, and enough alimony to keep him chained to the past. He was left in a tiny apartment. But then, out of nowhere, his luck turned around. One random morning, he checked his ticket like he had done 100 times before. Except this time, the numbers matched. He had won the lottery. It wasn't a billion-dollar jackpot, but it was more than enough to wipe out his debts, breathe again, and finally live without fear of bills. The clever thing he did was that he told no one. Not his friends, not his family, and definitely not his ex-wife. He played it cool. He still went to work. He still paid his alimony like always. But inside, he was smiling. For the first time, life had finally thrown him a break. But peace never lasts when bitterness is involved. His ex somehow found out about his win. No one knows how. Maybe a rumor, maybe a friend slipped, but she went straight to her lawyer. She claimed the ticket was purchased while they were still legally married. She wanted her share, even though she had already taken almost everything else. The case became a full-blown war. She said the money was rightfully hers. He argued it was his own luck and his own cash. She even told the court that her emotional suffering during their marriage deserved compensation. The man was shocked. He thought she couldn't surprise him anymore, but he was wrong. When the ruling finally came, it was all his. The court sided with him completely. But by then, the victory felt hollow. The stress had eaten up the joy of winning. He packed up quietly, sold his apartment, and left town without saying a word. He started a small business somewhere far away, never looked back, and refused to do interviews. Well, he hid his money to escape a toxic marriage. The next winner tried to hide his from everyone, but one careless person ruined everything. Number 2. The Tattletale. A man from Maine hit one of the biggest jackpots in U.S. history. He won over $1 billion. You would think that kind of money would bring celebration, but no. It brought him so much stress and tore his life apart. At first, he tried to stay completely anonymous. He didn't want his family or anyone else to know how rich he had become. The only person he told was the mother of his child. But even she had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That's how secretive he was. But then, his wife blabbed. Months later, he filed a lawsuit against his ex-partner, the same woman who had signed the NDA. He claimed she had broken the agreement by telling his father about the win. That single leak shattered everything. His father didn't stay silent. He went public, accusing his son of betrayal. The dad said his son had promised him a house, a rebuilt business, and even $1 million trust fund, but never did any of that. The media went crazy. Suddenly, the story of a quiet winner turned into a family feud for the ages. The father told reporters he didn't even recognize his son anymore, that the money had turned him cold, arrogant, and unreachable. And to make things worse, his ex-partner fired back in court, accusing him of trying to control everyone with his newfound wealth. The court filings turned into a soap opera. Each side threw accusations at the other. There were claims of manipulation, greed, and broken promises. Reporters camped outside courthouses, desperate for new details. Some people blamed the father for being greedy. Others said the winner had lost all sense of humanity. By then, his billion-dollar secret had exploded. He just wanted to protect his privacy, but it was gone forever. And while his life fell apart because of one secret spilled, this next winner hit hers for an entirely different reason. Because she didn't trust her family to care about her at all. Number 1. The Black Sheep. She was used to being invisible. The youngest in the family, always the one who got the smallest slice of everything, whether it was attention, affection, or even birthday gifts. When her siblings needed something, everyone rushed to help. When she needed something, they said she was being dramatic. So when she bought a random lottery ticket one Friday night, she didn't even expect to win. It was more of a why not moment. But when the numbers appeared on her screen and matched perfectly, her heart almost stopped. She had just won $2 million. And she made one decision right there that she wasn't telling anyone. Not her mom, not her brother, not her sister. She collected the prize quietly, met with a financial advisor, and started fixing her life. She cleared her debt, bought a small home, and even started a small business she had dreamed of for years. Life finally felt calm and stress-free. Then, somehow, her family found out about her win. Suddenly, her mom wanted weekly visits. Her sister wanted to reconnect. Her brother sent messages like they should hang out. When she refused to reconnect, they accused her of being selfish, said she owed them because they were family. She tried explaining that she had worked hard her whole life without their help, but no one listened. So she cut them off without any big fight. She moved to another city and built a new life from scratch. For once, she was no longer the black sheep that her family pretended not to see. So, what would you do if you hit the jackpot? Would you tell your family or keep it a secret forever? Number 7. The Anonymous Mum. The first story comes from a post on Mumsnet. An anonymous woman revealed her big secret that she had once won more than 14 million pounds on the lottery, which is around 18.8 million US dollars. But the way she handled her win shows exactly how money can change people. She explained that she was a single mum when it happened. She didn't even realize straight away. She only checked her ticket at work after hearing the numbers on the radio. She nearly fell out of her chair upon hearing those numbers. But the clever thing she did was that she didn't run to cash it in right there. She finished her shift like nothing had happened and only called the lottery office once she was home. But when reality sank in, she started to plan everything. She didn't ditch her job on the spot, but a couple of months later she handed in her notice for good. She bought her dream home, set up private bank accounts, and got financial advisors. And yes, she treated herself with 50 Mulberry handbags lined up like trophies because who wouldn't? But the real twist was what happened with her family. She admitted she lost contact with most of them because of their greed. She claims they acted entitled, as if she owed them a lifetime of free money. Her words were that she would have helped, but the way they demanded it was outrageous. So instead of handing out fortunes, she cut ties. Today, she still has most of her winnings, spends time volunteering, and doesn't regret a thing, except for telling her family. But maybe she was right to cut off her greedy family, because this next man caused a storm. He won 227 million pounds on the lottery, which is equivalent to 305 million US dollars. And instead of becoming a hero to his family, he became the villain. Number 6. The winner on Reddit. This story was shared by a user on Reddit. He said that he was fresh out of a divorce. His ex had taken the car and a big chunk of his savings. He was left starting again with almost nothing. The win gave him the chance to put his life back together. But his parents didn't see it that way. When they found out, they expected him to share his money with them. His mother was diabetic, his father retired, and they said he had once promised to help them if he ever got lucky. That old line became an excuse for them to demand cash. He admitted he felt guilty, but he also said the money was his way of surviving. So he made his choice. Instead of giving it to his parents, he kept it. He planned a small wedding with his new partner and set aside the rest for his own future. That's when the fight began. His parents were angry. They called him selfish, and their relationship broke apart. The reaction online was very different. Some people supported him. They told him not to give in, that family can drain you dry, and that once you start handing out money, it never stops. Many said he should have never told them he won in the first place. Some even said that he should have helped at least with their medical bills. But none of the opinions mattered to him, as he had already made up his mind. In the end, he cut his parents out of the win completely. And that's how he ditched his family. Now, if you thought family drama ended there, wait until you hear about Les Scatting. Number 5. Les Scatting. He won 45.5 million pounds on the Euro Millions in 2009. It was about $61.2 million. At the time, it was the biggest single lottery win in the entire UK. And the way he handled it is going to shock you. Before the win, Les used to live a simple life. He was an unemployed mechanic. He had survived cancer, and he was living in Wales with his second wife, Samantha. But overnight, everything changed. Suddenly, he was a multi-millionaire. But he did give his 3 children from his first marriage a cut, a 7-figure sum each. But his ex-wife, who had been with him for 27 years and raised those children with him, got nothing. Not a penny. After nearly 3 decades together, he cut her off completely. And while his children were set for life, his decision to leave their mother out of the win exposed a very clear line that the past was the past and he wasn't sharing it with her. Then, instead of keeping things quiet, Les became a public figure. He even invested in football, becoming the chairman of Newport County. For a while, it looked like he was building a legacy with his fortune. But by 2013, his second marriage fell apart, and just 2 years later, he walked away from the club too. In the end, his jackpot ripped open old wounds and left his first family cut out forever. And just when you think family fallouts over lottery wins cannot get any darker, here comes the story of John Doe. Number 4. John Doe. This man from Maine hit one of the biggest jackpots in US history, $1.35 billion in January 2023. He took the lump sum, which left him with around $500 million after taxes. That kind of money should set up generations. Instead, it tore his family apart. At first, Doe tried to stay anonymous. He even had the mother of his child, known in court as Sarah Smith, sign an NDA so she wouldn't tell anyone. But last November, he sued her. He accused her of breaking the agreement and spilling the secret. His claim was that she told his father, and that's how the rest of the family found out. For Doe, that was betrayal, and he wanted $100,000 in damages for each breach. But in court filings, Smith's lawyers turned the tables. They pointed out that Doe himself admitted he had told his father about the win. This is how his whole case fell apart. And then his father stepped in. Instead of standing by his son, he sided against him. According to declarations, Doe's dad said his son had promised him the world, a new garage, the childhood home, even $1 million trust fund for him and his wife. But when he asked questions about the details, Doe exploded. The father claimed Doe called him names, demanded he cut off all contact with Smith, and then disappeared from his life. His father said to him, "You are not the son I knew." Since then, the two haven't spoken. The promises were not kept, and Doe was left battling both his ex and his own dad in court. Smith accused him of using his endless resources to bully her in a custody fight. Doe accused her of abuse and manipulation. What should have been a fairy tale win turned into a family war. And all because $500 million hit one man's account. And if you thought it was only families tearing apart over lottery money, wait until you hear about Americo Lopez. Number 3. Americo Lopez. Americo lived in Elizabeth, New Jersey and worked construction with 5 close friends. These co-workers had built years of trust, eating lunch together, sharing rides, and even pitching in money to buy lottery tickets as a group. Americo was the one they trusted to handle the cash and buy the tickets. He was the middleman, the one responsible for keeping everyone honest. Then came November 2009 and everything changed. The numbers finally came up and their ticket won. But Americo didn't tell them. Instead, he quit his job. He told everyone that he needed surgery on his foot, and then he vanished from work while secretly holding a multi-million-dollar check. Months later, one of the guys spotted a news story, and there was Americo, smiling with the winning ticket. The group realized in an instant that he had cut them out. As soon as they found out about the betrayal, Americo's friends took him to court. They were determined to prove that the winning ticket was bought with their pooled money. Americo fought back, claiming it was his personal ticket. Even his wife testified on his behalf. But the jury didn't believe his side of the story. The evidence was clear enough that he had used the group's funds. He was forced to split the jackpot. The victory didn't erase the damage. One of the men broke down in court, saying the stress had destroyed their bond. They didn't celebrate with champagne or luxury cars. Instead, they took a short vacation and went back to work. The dream win turned into a bitter fight. And Americo lost not just his money, but every friendship he had. Number 2. Mark Gardner. Now let's talk about Mark Gardner, a man who hit the jackpot for £22 million back in 1995. It was equivalent to $29.6 million. This amount should have been the dream of a lifetime. Instead, it broke all the precious bonds he had in his life. Mark split the win with his then best friend, Paul Madison, but that friendship didn't last. Years later, Paul didn't even show up at Mark's 4th wedding, and after that, the two never spoke again. By the time Paul passed away in 2022, their bond was long gone. family was no better. Mark was estranged from his 3 sisters, his biological mother, and even his adoptive mother. None of them saw a penny from his winnings. Instead, he turned to his mates. Right after the big win, he spent £500,000 buying houses for 5 of his closest friends. It sounds generous, but it didn't end the way he had hoped. Within a few years, those friendships fizzled out too. In his own words, not one of them kept in touch. That's when the money started to feel like a curse. The fortune didn't bring him peace at home either. Mark went through 4 marriages, the last ending in 2004. After that, he swore off relationships for good. The only family he still talks to today is his cousin June and his uncle Jim. Everyone else, he shut out. Still, Mark never walked away from normal life completely. He kept running his double glazing window business, insisting that hearing a customer thank him for a job well done meant more than any luxury car. And yet, he still splashed out, buying football clubs, 2 boats, a Harley, an Aston Martin, and even houses in Barbados. Over the years, Mark has admitted that sometimes he curses the day he won. The money brought him suspicion, loneliness, and fame he didn't want. And yet, he still buys tickets. Because in his words, winning twice would be amazing. And just when you think you've heard every kind of betrayal, there is the case of the black sheep. Number 1. The black sheep. On Reddit, a 28-year-old woman shared her story, and it was pure family drama. She said she had always been the black sheep of her family. Her siblings were the favorites, the golden kids, while she got sidelined again and again. And even as an adult, they still treated her like she didn't belong. The proof was that they planned a massive overseas trip, and she only found out when her sister started posting photos online. They didn't invite her, didn't even call to tell her anything. When she confronted her mom, she told her that they didn't think she would have wanted to come, and besides, they were tight on budget. She swallowed the hurt and let it slide. Then the tables turned. A month later, she bought a lottery ticket and walked away with over $2 million. Finally, it was her own win. She kept it quiet, paid off her debts, invested, and even saved some just to enjoy herself. For once, she was ahead. But things blew up when she bought a new car. Suddenly, her family started poking around, and when she admitted the truth, they lost it. Her mom accused her of being selfish. Her sister subtly told her she should cover her student loans. Her brother didn't make any subtle remarks. He straight up asked for a house. But the woman didn't cave. She reminded them how they'd left her out, how they never treated her as an equal. This time, she was not handing anything over. That's when her dad told her that it was family money. Bold of him to say that, while not treating her the same way as her siblings her whole life. In the end, her family turned on her. They called her an ungrateful brat, saying she was destroying the family. But online, people cheered her on. They said she was finally standing up for herself after years of being treated like nothing. The so-called black sheep had the last word, and her family was still empty-handed. Only if they had treated her better, they would have enjoyed a slice of the jackpot instead of being cut off for good. No more problems. But what he didn't know was that something or someone was coming straight for him after that big win. So, what really happened after Edwin Castro got the money? Let us tell you his shocking story actualized. The big win. When Edwin Castro's name was finally made public, nobody even knew who he was. He was just a quiet guy from Altadena, California, who studied architecture and lived a very normal life. Before that one ticket, he was in a small apartment, working as a mechanic, doing what millions of people do every day, just getting by. Then, one slip of paper changed his life forever. The Powerball draw happened on November 7th, 2022. The winning numbers were 10, 33, 41, 47, 56, and Powerball 10. But nobody came forward right away. Days went by. Weeks passed. People started to think maybe the ticket was lost, or maybe the winner had no clue they had just hit the biggest jackpot in US history. Finally, after months of silence, on February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day of all days, the California Lottery revealed the name, Edwin Castro. He was the one, the only person to match all 6 numbers. Out of millions of tickets sold across the country, he was the single winner of $2.04 billion. It was the biggest lottery prize in American history. And then came another shock. He didn't show up to get the money. Edwin kept himself hidden and sent his lawyers instead. That's when the public got its first clue. This was not going to be your typical lottery winner story. The California Lottery confirmed he picked the lump sum payout instead of the 30-year annuity. That instantly dropped the prize down to about $997.6 million before taxes. Then came the federal tax cut, which was 37% gone. By the time it hit his account, Edwin had about $628.5 million left. It was still more money than most people could dream of, but far from the $2 billion advertised. Since California doesn't tax lottery winnings, he actually kept more than he would have if he had lived in another state. Call it luck on top of luck. So here was Edwin Castro, a man who went from mechanic paychecks to hundreds of millions in cash overnight. And when someone wins a jackpot this massive, everyone waits to see what they will buy first. For Edwin Castro, the answer was real estate, cars, and a life of quiet luxury. His lifestyle upgrade. The very first thing he did was walk away from his small Altadena home and go straight into Hollywood royalty territory. His first purchase was a $25.5 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills. Nearly 14,000 square feet of pure extravagance. The house sits high above Los Angeles with glass walls stretching from floor to ceiling, so the whole skyline is basically his wallpaper. Inside, there are 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, a movie theater, a wine cellar, a gym, a spa, and even a game room. Out back, an infinity-edge pool stretches toward the city view. And the garage has space for 7 cars. Edwin clearly had plans for that. This house was once nicknamed Palazzo di Vista. It was designed to wow anyone who walked in. Now his neighbors include Jimmy Kimmel, Ariana Grande, and Dakota Johnson. Not bad for a guy who was almost anonymous a few months earlier. But that was not Edwin's only purchase. Just days later, he picked up another home, this time back in his old neighborhood of Altadena. The price tag was $4 million. This one was totally different. Japanese-inspired design, with 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, its own theater, pool, and a spa-like garden. From what people say, he bought it for his parents. This shows us that he does not just think about himself. He wants his family nearby, comfortable and taken care of. Still, the real shocking purchase came later. Edwin added a $47 million Bel Air mega mansion to his collection. And this wasn't just another rich guy house. This was architectural theater. It includes 7 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, a koi pond, a champagne room, DJ turntables built into the furniture, a glass bridge, and another private theater. It's the kind of place where even the closets are bigger than most apartments. Out back, another massive pool looks out over Los Angeles. We're not sure if Edwin lives there full-time, but the purchase made headlines everywhere. By then, his real estate spree alone had eaten up over $76 million. And people couldn't stop talking about it. Then came the cars. Edwin has a soft spot for Porsches. One of the first cars spotted in his driveway was a vintage white Porsche 911, worth about $250,000. He has been seen driving it multiple times, and fans say it looks showroom new. At a luxury car show in LA, he was even caught checking out a $1.6 million Mercedes-Benz Gullwing. Whether he bought it or not, who knows? But with his security team standing right behind him, he looked exactly like someone who could. Speaking of security, Edwin now travels with full-time protection. He has bodyguards, private drivers, and surveillance systems built into his homes. After all, when you are holding one of the biggest jackpots ever won, you are also holding a giant target. Edwin is not taking chances. But the funny part is, while his houses seem like somewhere a billionaire would live, his personal style doesn't. He is usually seen in hoodies, jeans, or simple button-down shirts. Sometimes his hair is pulled into a man bun. He vapes casually, steps out of his luxury rides like it's no big deal, and clearly doesn't care about impressing anyone with designer brands. There is something almost unreal about it. Walking out of a $25 million palace dressed like you just ran to the store. But maybe that's the whole point. Of course, the spotlight also caught a few glimpses of his new inner circle. Edwin started dating Peyton Vincent, a younger model who once worked as a barista and a bank teller in Maine before moving to LA. The two were first noticed on Instagram, then later spotted having sushi in West Hollywood. She rides around with him in his luxury cars, and they seem happy, laughing, and low-key about the whole thing. Behind the scenes, though, Edwin has built a professional team to manage his new world. His PR rep, Terry Fawn, has worked with celebrities and athletes, so keeping Edwin's name out of messy headlines is no accident. He has also brought in lawyers, financial advisors, and his brother Jesse, who has a banking background. Together, they have helped him take care of everything from property deals to security planning. But Edwin hasn't just been buying houses and cars. He has been traveling too. One of his first getaways was to Fiji, where he and friends rented out part of a floating bar called Cloud9. It's basically a 2-story party platform in the middle of the ocean, reachable only by boat. He enjoyed the beginning of his new life here under endless sunshine without a single thought about how much it cost. Financial experts, of course, have had plenty to say. They warn that 70% of lottery winners lose it all within a few years. They tell big winners to stay low-key, avoid giant purchases, and focus on safe investments. Edwin clearly didn't take all of that advice. 3 mega mansions, expensive cars, luxury travel. None of that makes it seem like he's playing it safe. But the thing is, unlike many lottery winners before him, he is not piling on debt. He is spending, yes, but he is spending within his means. With over $600 million cash in hand, he can afford to live big without sinking himself. That hasn't stopped critics from taking shots. Finance blogs called his homes bad investments. Analysts questioned whether his cars were just wasting money. And columnists warned that the so-called lottery curse could still catch him. But while the world speculates, Edwin himself stays silent. He has made no public appearances or given any interviews. He seems perfectly fine letting the houses, cars, and headlines do all the talking. In just 2 years, Edwin Castro went from a mechanic no one knew to the most famous lottery winner alive. But before he could enjoy the good life, a huge problem showed up. One that could have changed everything. The mystery and the drama. Out of nowhere, a man named Jose Rivera filed a lawsuit claiming the winning ticket never belonged to Edwin at all. Rivera claimed that he bought the ticket, lost it, and then had it stolen by a man named Reggie. According to Rivera, Reggie tricked him into believing it wasn't a winner, then somehow passed it along, and then he saw Edwin Castro walk away with $2 billion. If true, it would have been one of the craziest cons in lottery history. But in California, the person holding the ticket is considered the legal winner. If you don't have a ticket, you don't get any payout. Rivera didn't have the ticket. All he had was his word and a crazy story. Meanwhile, Edwin stayed completely silent. He didn't give interviews, didn't show up in court, didn't even flinch. His lawyers handled everything and flat out denied the claims. They even said they had video proof of Edwin buying the ticket at Joe's Service Center in Altadena, the same place that got a $1 million bonus from the state for selling it. The case went downhill fast. First, all claims against the California lottery were dismissed. Then, when Rivera failed to respond to a court motion, the judge dropped the case against Edwin too. But the drama didn't end there. At one hearing, Rivera got so frustrated, he fired his lawyer on the spot and told the judge to just lock him up. Things spiraled so badly that the judge had to pause proceedings and move the whole thing to mental health court. Later, Rivera was charged with filing a false police report, which in California can mean fines or even jail time. So while Edwin was out buying mega mansions and vintage Porsches, the only man challenging his win completely self-destructed. It turned the biggest jackpot in history into a courtroom circus. And it left one truth standing. Edwin Castro really was the rightful winner of $2.04 billion. And today, he is occasionally seen enjoying that wealth.
Well, we finally know who won last November's record $2 billion Powerball lottery. His name is Edwin Castro. Lottery officials say Castro didn't want to come forward to keep his privacy, but they legally have to say his name.
Winning the jackpot. This jackpot was drawn on November 7th, 2022, but no one came forward right away. Days passed, then weeks. There was no winner on camera. People started to wonder if the winner had lost the ticket or if the winner had no idea they had won. It was not until February 14th, 2023 that the California lottery officially announced the winner, Edwin Castro. He was the only person to match all 6 numbers, 10, 33, 41, 47, 56, and the Powerball 10. As soon as Edwin's name was made public, people rushed to find out who he was, but he didn't show up for interviews or talk to the media. Instead, he sent his lawyers to claim the prize for him. The California lottery confirmed that he chose the lump sum option, which brought the prize down to about $997.6 million before taxes. After federal taxes, which take 37% of large winnings, Edwin walked away with around $628.5 million. Since California does not tax lottery winnings, he kept more of the prize than winners in most other states would. And just like that, Edwin Castro became a very rich and very private man. Edwin studied architecture at Woodbury University, a small private college in Burbank, known for its design and tech programs. Before winning the lottery, no one really knew who he was. He lived a quiet life in a small home in Altadena, not far from where he bought the winning ticket. His background was in design, and from all accounts, he was just living a normal life. So when his name was announced, people were curious. How would someone so private handle a huge pile of money? Reporters followed property records and local tips to track his big purchases. But what surprised people most was not just the homes and luxury cars. It was the fact that right after winning, Edwin ended up in the middle of a legal fight. Someone claimed that the winning ticket didn't belong to him at all. We'll come back to that part of the story in a minute. But first, let's talk about someone else who got a piece of the prize. Joe's Service Center, the gas station where Edwin bought the ticket, also got a reward. The store's owner received a $1 million bonus from the state just for selling the winning ticket. Now, back to Castro. Becoming a billionaire overnight did not mean all of his problems disappeared. In fact, not long after the win, Edwin was caught in a legal mess. Someone claimed the winning ticket was not his at all. The controversy.
Well, look, hope you have a good day and hopefully this legal situation gets resolved.
A man named Jose Rivera said the winning ticket belonged to him. He said he bought it, lost it, and someone stole it, and that someone, somehow, was Edwin Castro. Rivera filed a lawsuit claiming that the ticket was taken away from him by a guy named Reggie, who apparently told him it was not a winning ticket at all. Rivera said he watched the draw the next night, saw the numbers match, and realized he had just been robbed of billions. Now, Rivera claimed he reported the issue to the California State Lottery, but they told him that unless he walked in with the actual ticket, they could not help him, and they were right to tell him that. In California, the person holding the winning ticket is seen as the official winner. No ticket, no payout. That's the rule. While Rivera was filing complaints and starting legal action, Edwin was staying quiet, at least publicly. But his legal team did respond. They said the whole case was nonsense. Edwin had bought the ticket himself, they had video proof from the store, and there was no link between him and Rivera. In fact, the judge eventually agreed. First, all claims against the state lottery were dismissed. Then, when Rivera failed to respond to a court motion, the case against Edwin was dropped too. That should have been the end of it. But Rivera did not exactly go quietly. At a court hearing, he got upset, fired his lawyer, and even told the judge to just take him into custody. Things escalated so fast that the judge had to pause everything and move the case to a mental health court. Rivera was later charged with filing a false police report, which in California could lead to fines or even jail time. At the same time this drama played out, Edwin was living the kind of life people imagine after a lottery win. So how did his life change after becoming a billionaire? Life after becoming a billionaire. After walking away with over $600 million in cash, Edwin Castro jumped headfirst into a wealthy lifestyle. And who could blame him? He used to live in a one-bedroom home in Altadena, so he wasted no time getting out of there. As soon as he got the cash, he went on a real estate spree. His first major buy was a $25.5 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills. If you're wondering what a house like that includes, the answer is everything. This place is nearly 14,000 square feet and sits on a hillside with sweeping stunning views of Los Angeles. It has 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, a movie theater, a wine cellar, a gym, a game room, and a spa. The entire front of the house is covered in floor-to-ceiling glass, and there's an infinity-edge pool just in case you forget how rich you are. And that garage holds 7 cars. Edwin clearly had a plan. The home was once known as Palazzo di Vista, and it was designed to impress anyone who sets eyes on it. His neighbors now include some very familiar faces, including Jimmy Kimmel, Ariana Grande, and Dakota Johnson. So Edwin went from being totally unknown to suddenly living among A-list celebrities. Quiet guy or not, that's a big lifestyle jump. But that was not the only thing he spent his money on. Just days after that first mansion, he bought a second home.
Edwin Castro reportedly bought one of LA's most expensive homes in Bel Air. This hilltop mansion has 7 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms. Oh, I didn't see him. And one of LA's greatest views.
This one back in Altadena, not far from the gas station where he bought the winning ticket. That house cost $4 million. It is a Japanese-inspired property with 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and views of the San Gabriel Mountains. It also has its own theater, pool, and garden areas that feel more like a spa retreat. He reportedly bought it for his parents, which is sweet. He clearly did not forget where he came from, and it seems he wanted them to be nearby and comfortable. A few months later, news broke that Edwin had picked up a third property, a $47 million mega mansion in Bel Air. This place is on another level. 7 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, a koi pond, DJ turntables, a champagne room, a glass bridge, and another home theater. There is also a massive pool with a panoramic view of Los Angeles. It's the kind of house where nothing is basic. Even the closets are huge, and each room has a sitting area. It's unclear whether Edwin lives there or not, and some sources say the property is under a different name. But the purchase caught everyone's attention. By now, his real estate portfolio alone had made headlines across the country, but that was just the beginning. He also started collecting cars, and expensive ones. One of the first was a vintage white Porsche 911, worth about $250,000. A beautiful car, and according to those who have seen it, it looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor. He has been spotted in it more than once, and it seems to be his favorite. Then he was seen checking out a $1.6 million Mercedes-Benz Gullwing at a luxury car show in LA. Whether he bought it or not is still a mystery, but standing next to it, with his security team behind him, he looked every bit like someone who could buy it without blinking. And speaking of security, yes, Edwin now has a full-time private security team, bodyguards, drivers, people who keep him safe and manage his movements. It might sound extreme, but when you're one of the most recognizable lottery winners in the world, it is probably necessary. He does not talk to the press, rarely appears in public, and is known to avoid attention. But when he does step out, he is protected. That includes his homes too, which are now fully equipped with surveillance systems and privacy features. He's not taking chances. Now you would expect someone with this kind of money to hire a stylist, refresh their wardrobe, and start showing up in designer clothes, right? Well, not Edwin. If anything, his style has stayed exactly the same. He's still wearing casual jeans, hoodies, button-downs, and the occasional t-shirt. There's something kind of funny about seeing someone step out of a multi-million-dollar mansion, puffing on a vape in an outfit that looks like they picked it up off the floor. Well, if it works, it works. His hair is usually tied up in a man bun, and there is zero sign he's trying to dress to impress. Maybe that's the point. As for the people around him, that's changed too. After months of staying quiet, Edwin was spotted with a new girlfriend, a model named Peyton Vincent. She's younger than him, used to work as a barista and bank teller in Maine, and now lives in LA. Their relationship was introduced on Instagram after they appeared in a few soft posts, and paparazzi later caught them having sushi in West Hollywood. He drives her around in one of his luxury cars, and the two have been seen giggling together, looking pretty relaxed about the whole being extremely rich thing. They're not the only ones in his new circle. He has hired a PR manager, Terry Fawn, who is a media rep who has worked with celebrities and high-profile athletes. It makes sense. Edwin may not want to do interviews, but that does not mean he's not managing his public image. He has also brought in a lawyer, a financial advisor, and his brother Jesse, who has a background in banking, to help manage the business side of things. In short, he built a team, quietly but efficiently. And when he's not buying property or adding to his car collection, he's traveling. One of his first getaways after claiming the prize was to Fiji, where he and a small group of friends rented out part of a floating bar called Cloud 9. It's a 2-story bar in the middle of the ocean that can only be reached by boat. There were coconuts, snorkeling, and lots of sun, and probably not a single thought about budgeting. Of course, all this spending has not gone unnoticed. Financial advisors have been very vocal in the media, warning him and other big winners that 70% of lottery winners go broke within a few years. They advise against big purchases, urge people to stay grounded, and recommend investing slowly. Edwin seems to have ignored some of that advice, but people close to him say he's more careful than he looks. Everything he has bought so far, including houses, cars, travel, he could afford 10 times over. He's not in debt or betting it all on a startup. He's just living large. Still, there has been some judgment. Articles calling his homes bad investments, blogs questioning his spending habits, and finance experts wondering how long the money will last. But it is hard to deny that Edwin Castro is doing things his way, just quietly and confidently upgrading every part of his life. Even with all the headlines, though, he has stayed out of the spotlight. He does not do interviews. He has not given statements. He does not attend events or show up at red carpets. While the world talks about his purchases, Edwin himself says nothing. Maybe he's too busy enjoying what he has, or maybe he's just not interested in the fame that came with it. 2 years after winning, Edwin's name is still trending. His homes are still making headlines, and his low-key style, vintage car collection, and massive real estate buys are still sparking debate online. But for someone who could have lost himself in the chaos of fame and money, he seems strangely at ease in his simple clothes. Number 10, long overdue. In 2001, Martin and Kay were just a regular couple in the UK. They had the habit of playing the lottery every week with the same numbers. Nothing ever happened until one day those numbers actually hit, and they won £3 million. But the craziest thing is they didn't know because they never checked. For 6 whole months, they were sitting on a fortune and had absolutely no idea. The winning ticket was probably lost somewhere in the house or tossed in the trash. Meanwhile, the lottery people were practically begging the mystery winner to come forward. They even went on TV about it. That's when Martin and Kay finally put 2 and 2 together. They saw the numbers on the screen and thought those looked familiar. That was when they started tearing the place apart looking for the ticket. But it was gone. Still, they didn't give up. Kay remembered where she bought the ticket, and luckily, they still had the shop receipt. So they went to the lottery office thinking that this proved their win and that they were getting their money. But no, the lottery pulled out the rule book and said that if you lose your ticket, you have to report it within 30 days and not 6 months. And they were way too late. Even with the receipt and the proof, they could not get anything. It was brutal. All that hope just crushed. And honestly, it messed with them. The stress, the fighting, and the back and forth wore them down. Eventually, they broke up. Well, it was the couple's fault they never got the money. In the next story, it was nobody's fault, and people still didn't get paid. Number 9. Nobody's fault. In 2015, Illinois was basically broke. The state owed tens of billions of dollars, and things were such a mess that even lottery winners got dragged into it. At the time, if you won anything over $600 in Illinois, you would get a piece of paper saying that the state would pay you later. People were confused at first. Then they were angry. Imagine winning the lottery, thinking your life is about to change, and instead, you were told just to wait? The reason was that Illinois didn't have a state budget for 2 whole years. They were already drowning in debt, including unpaid benefits for public workers. Eventually, they had to stop selling Powerball and Mega Millions because they literally could not afford to pay the winners. At some point, people had had enough. A bunch of winners teamed up and took the state to court. Finally, by 2017, the state slowly started paying everyone back. The budget crisis started to ease up, and winners finally saw their money. Now let's listen to the story of the next unlucky winner who lost his money due to a glitch. Number 8. Testing numbers. It was early 2023, and this guy in Washington, D.C., John Cheeks, bought a Powerball ticket. He picked his usual numbers, ones that meant something to him, like family birthdays, special dates, and the kind of numbers people play every week without expecting much. He didn't even watch the draw. He just went about his day. A couple of days later, he hopped onto the DC Lottery website and checked the numbers. And there, he saw the exact same numbers he played. and the jackpot was $340 million. But instead of freaking out, he stayed calm, called a friend, told him what happened. His friend told him to take a picture of the numbers just in case. It was definitely a smart move. The next day, John went into the lottery office thinking he was about to be handed a check that would change his life forever. Instead, they told him the numbers on his ticket didn't match. He was really confused. He showed them the photo and explained what he saw online. And then someone at the office told him to throw the ticket away. Just toss it. But John didn't throw anything. He kept the ticket and got a lawyer. That's when the truth comes out. The lottery accidentally posted test numbers on their website. And those are the ones John had played. It wasn't even the real draw. So now they were saying he didn't actually win. But he trusted what they posted. And still, they didn't pay. Other states, like Iowa, made similar mistakes and gave people their money anyway, even for small wins. But Powerball went the other way. Like John, this next winner actually saw the money on the screen and still didn't get a dime. Number 7. Stupid machine. Veronica Castillo went to a casino with her mom just to relax and have a little fun. It was just a normal visit to Lucky Eagle Casino in Washington. She put $100 into a slot machine, pressed the button, and suddenly the light started flashing on the screen. It said she had just won $8 million. For a few minutes, Veronica went numb. She was shocked, excited, and probably already thinking of how to spend it. But then the casino staff walked over and killed the moment. They told her it was all a mistake and just a malfunction. The machine had glitched. According to them, she hadn't won anything. And just like that, her $8 million turned into $80 because that's all they gave her. They shut off the machine, wheeled it away, and pointed to a little sticker that said, "Malfunction voids all pays." Veronica was furious. And honestly, who wouldn't be? She said it felt like fraud. And she started wondering how many other people had a win taken away from them because of a so-called glitch. So she took action, hired a lawyer to hold the casino accountable. Meanwhile, the casino's CEO claimed this was all new to him. He said their machines don't even offer jackpots that big. He promised an investigation, said the machine was going to be checked by the manufacturer, and called it a display error. In the end, Veronica didn't get anything. Unlike Veronica, this next player did get something, but it was still not her lottery money. Number 6. The most expensive dinner. In August 2016, Katrina Bookman was at a Resorts World casino in Queens, New York, just trying her luck. She played a slot machine and suddenly, the screen flashed a number so big she could hardly believe it. It said she had won $43 million. She was in shock, smiling, crying, taking a selfie with the screen because that number would have made her the biggest slot winner in US history. But the next day, her dreams were shattered when a casino staff member told her the win wasn't real. They claimed the machine had glitched. And just like that, her jackpot dreams vanished. According to the New York State Gaming Commission, the machine had malfunctioned. And when that happens, the rules say all winnings are void. So, what did they offer Katrina instead of her $43 million? Just a steak dinner. Katrina, who grew up in foster care and was raising 4 kids on her own, had big dreams when she saw that number. She thought life had finally changed for the better. But no, they said she was only owed $2.25, which was the amount from her actual spin. The broken machine was quietly taken away, fixed, and then put right back into use. Now it's making us wonder, how easy is it for a casino to just call it a glitch when the prize is too big? It all seems a little too convenient. Now, this next story will prove to you that sometimes moving too fast costs you everything. Number 5. Haste makes waste. This is the story of 2 friends, Eric Onyango and Salvatore Cambria. They were roommates, they shared expenses, and they always played the lottery together. It was their little habit. One would grab the ticket, the other would check the numbers. One evening after buying their usual Powerball ticket, they sat down to see if luck had finally struck. Eric pulled up the results on the website, and Salvatore had the ticket in hand. Eric read out the numbers one by one. They didn't match. So what did they do? Salvatore tossed the ticket in the trash like he used to do all the time. But the next day, the real numbers were posted. Turns out, the website they had checked was outdated. They had looked too early, and the numbers on that losing ticket were worth $1 million. They were crushed. They had no idea where the ticket went. The garbage was already collected. They talked about searching dumps, using sniffer dogs, anything to get that piece of paper back. They even had the purchase receipt and camera footage from the store, but the rules were crystal clear that if you don't have a physical ticket, you don't get the payout. Still, they tried. They filed a lawsuit and argued that in today's world, people rely on online updates, and it was unfair to punish them for a slow website. And they weren't wrong. But the court didn't care. And just like that, $1 million was gone because they checked too fast and cleaned up too soon. If you think these friends were dumb to throw away their lottery ticket, listen to this next story of even dumber best friends. Number 4. Creatures of habit. In April 2019, two guys from Bolton, Mark Goodrum and John Ross Watson, thought they had hit the jackpot. And they kind of did, but they also messed it up in the most ridiculous way possible. Mark had just gotten out of jail and linked up with his old buddy Watson. They had no money, no jobs, but clearly they had ideas. But the kind of ideas that land you back in handcuffs. Somehow they got their hands on a stolen debit card. And instead of laying low, they used it to buy a scratch card. Turns out that thing was worth over $5 million. In simple words, they won real money on a card that wasn't theirs. When the lottery company contacted them about the prize, they asked for their bank deals to make the transfer. That's when Goodrum said something so stupid it ruined everything. He said he didn't have a bank account. He was there telling the lottery he used the debit card but didn't have a bank account. That's when the officials sensed something was wrong. Well, the investigation started. Mark and John Ross decided to go full celebration mode. They bragged to the press, went shopping, and lived like kings on stolen money. They even hired a lawyer thinking they could fight their way to the prize, but they couldn't. Both were arrested. Watson got 18 months and Goodrum got 19. All they had to do was not steal a card. And just when you think things cannot get more frustrating, here comes the holiday heartbreak. Number 3. Won and then lost. On Christmas Day 2017, South Carolina experienced kind of a miracle. There was a glitch in the holiday cash add-a-play game that accidentally turned thousands of tickets into winners. For about 2 hours, people were celebrating left and right. 42,000 tickets were sold, and people won over $1.7 million in prizes. But that joy didn't last. The lottery system flagged it as a programming error and shut the game down. Soon after, they made it clear that none of those wins would be honored, and their money would be refunded. So imagine going from a winning ticket to getting your money back. On Christmas, no less. People were furious, but the lottery stuck to the rules and didn't budge. This turned out to be South Carolina's worst Christmas ever. Now here's a case where a tiny technicality nearly stole someone's win. Number 2. A ridiculous technicality. Kathleen Lambert and her husband thought they were in for a good day. They had just won $1,000 on a scratch-off ticket in Florida and drove over an hour and a half to the Gainesville lottery office to claim it. But when they got there, they got some unbelievable news that they were not getting paid. Just because during the pandemic, her husband received unemployment benefits, and apparently the state claimed he owed money back. So instead of handing over the winnings, the lottery office held on to it. And it wasn't just them. Thousands of other Florida lottery winners were being blocked from their prizes for the same reason that there were debts that they didn't even know they had. It was a mess. But then ABC's I-team got involved. They started asking questions, exposing the flaws and putting pressure on the system. Bit by bit, things began to shift. The truth came out, and slowly, the state started giving people their money back. Kathleen and many others finally got what they were owed, not as a favor, but because it was rightfully theirs. And finally, we have a story from England of an unlucky couple who didn't get their money because they were already broke. Let us explain what that means. Number 1. Being broke. In May 2022, Rachel and Liam were living together. The couple had a routine. Every week, they would use the same set of numbers on the lottery app. And then, finally, one day, those exact numbers showed up in the jackpot draw. They had won £182 million, which is over $230 million. The app even notified them that their winning numbers had matched. Just imagine their excitement. But it didn't last long. When they contacted the lottery to claim their prize, they got the worst news possible. They told them their ticket wasn't valid because the payment for it had failed. A direct debit of just a few pounds hadn't gone through because Rachel's account didn't have enough in it that day, and the app never told them. They thought the ticket had gone through like always. This is how one tiny payment error cost them hundreds of millions. And despite the heartbreak, they said they would keep playing. But let's be honest, nothing could make up for that missed shot. Number 10. Michael Santaniello. This is Michael Santaniello. He could have lived a pretty good life, as he literally had the golden ticket. You see, in 2009, he won $1 million in the Massachusetts lottery. With this money, he could have purchased a house, invested in assets, or just saved for retirement. But what did Michael do? He spent it like it was never going to run out. At first, he made a smart decision. He had the money set up so he would get around $35,000 a year after taxes. But that wasn't exciting enough for him. He didn't want to play it safe and wanted more. So instead of just enjoying what he had, he went all in. He started spending his winnings on gambling. He threw thousands into bets, thinking he could flip his luck and win even bigger. But as you can already guess it, he didn't. The money disappeared faster than it came in. And when that ran out, he didn't stop. He got more desperate. You see, Michael owned a heating oil business, and instead of doing honest work, he started scamming people. He would take payments from customers, mostly elderly, and just ghost them. He would never give them the service he had promised. Of course, that didn't last. People started complaining and filing reports. Eventually, the law caught up with him, and Michael was hit with charges. He had to pay the money back and even ended up behind bars. He won $1 million and somehow managed to lose it all, plus his business, his freedom, and any ounce of trust people had in him. All because he couldn't stop spending, couldn't stop gambling, and just didn't know when to quit. In the end, he ended up worse off than before. The same thing happened to this next lottery winner, David Lee Edwards. Number 9. David Lee Edwards. David Lee Edwards might have pulled off the fastest fall from millionaire to total disaster we've ever seen. One minute, he was broke and living in a house without running water. The next, he had $27 million in the bank and absolutely no clue what to do with it. You would think someone who spent half their life in prison would be careful with money. But no, David went full chaos mode the second he got that check. Before the cash even hit his account, he borrowed $200,000 just because he knew money was coming. What did he do with that loan? He took his friends to Vegas and blew the entire thing in 5 days. That should have been the first red flag. But David wasn't even close to being done. Once the millions landed in his account, he went on a shopping spree that made absolutely no sense. He bought a mansion in Florida, a second house in California, a private jet with a personal pilot, and then came the ridiculous extras. $80K on a gold watch, $160K on a diamond ring, $30K on a TV in 2001 when HD wasn't even a thing, and 200 medieval swords. He also bought racehorses, but they lost. Started a limo company, which was a total failure. Dumped millions into a fiber optics business, but it collapsed. In short, he was just playing a rich guy fantasy game and didn't realize he was burning through his money. By the end of the first year, he had already spent $12 million. That's almost half his money, which was gone now. And then came the worst part. He and his wife, Shauna, relapsed. They started doing drugs, pills, needles, and going to wild parties. At one point, they were spending $200,000 a month just on drugs. Eventually, they had no more money to spend, and they ended up living in a rented storage unit with no heat and garbage on the floor. From mansions to mattresses on cement, that's how fast it all went downhill. Number 8. Jonathan Vargas. Next, we have Jonathan Vargas. He was just 19 when he won $35 million. Honestly speaking, he had no business winning the lottery so young. He was barely out of high school, didn't know the first thing about money, and definitely didn't have anyone around to stop him from doing something dumb. So what did he do with $35 million? He launched a women's wrestling show and named it Wrestlicious. If you were thinking he started it as a joke, you are wrong. The show had everything you would expect from a teenager's fantasy version of TV. He made sure that the show had wild costumes, silly characters, fake accents, and terrible comedy skits. Jonathan even gave himself a stage name, JV Rich. He showed up in every episode, rapped in the intro, and acted like he was running some billion-dollar empire. which of course he wasn't. The show aired for one season, just 13 episodes, which means it flopped. People didn't get it. Critics hated it, and viewers simply didn't care. But he wasn't done embarrassing himself. He also created a dating show just to test if his girlfriend really loved him. That's true. He put together a whole competition with 20 women, all to see if his actual girlfriend was with him for the money. That's where his trust issues took him. Besides all the TV disasters, he bought a mansion and splurged on sports cars, designer clothes, and everything else you would expect someone way too young with way too much money to waste it on. He had no plan and no budget. He was just spending non-stop on anything that felt fun in the moment. Most of his fortune went straight into that weird dream of becoming a TV celebrity. He wasn't interested in saving, investing, or even just chilling. He wanted the fame, the spotlight, the applause, even if it came from a show nobody watched. And let's be real, Restlicious wasn't going to land him any Emmys. As expected, the money quietly slipped away after a few weeks. No surprise there. Turns out producing TV isn't cheap, especially when you're the one throwing money at it like it grows back. And Jonathan wasn't making anything back, just spending as much as he could. Before long, JV Rich faded out of the picture. Today, no one really knows where he is or what he's doing. All that money, all those big dreams, and nothing left to show for it. Next, we have a lottery winner who had the heart of a queen but no financial sense whatsoever. Number 7. Janet Lee. This is Janet Lee. She won $18 million in the Illinois lottery back in 1993 when she used to run a wig shop. But that one lucky ticket changed her life. Her prize came in yearly payments of $620,000. That's a lot of money to work with. And to her credit, Janet actually did a lot of good. She donated big to her community, supported Korean American groups, paid for funerals, and even helped fund a reading room at a law school. Her name was on plaques. She sat next to presidents. Even politicians loved her. But while she was doing all of that, her bank account was quietly bleeding out. She spent millions of dollars on donations. People estimated she gave away $1.5 million to just one university. She handed over $100,000 to the Democratic National Committee, gave generously to Missouri politicians, and even donated $150,000 to help the unemployed and the Korean community. These were kind gestures, but they were coming out of her lottery checks, not a bottomless fund. And of course, she spent some money on herself as well. She bought a mansion, took out loans, and signed off on one very bad investment in a restaurant. She even opened a private club for Korean Americans that never actually opened. Just more wasted cash. At one point, she lost almost $350,000 in casinos. In the end, she had so many credit card bills that she owed over $1 million to the bank. But still, she took out more loans somehow. By 2001, Janet had just $700 left and was $2.5 million in debt. That's when she filed for bankruptcy and disappeared from the spotlight. Like Janet, this next lottery winner ended up declaring bankruptcy after just a few years. Number 6. William Bud Post. William Bud Post had no money, no job, and not much hope until one day he traded his ring for 40 lottery tickets. And somehow that desperate little deal turned into a $16 million win. But that win lasted for just a few moments. The second the money reached his account, Bud started spending like he had unlimited zeros in the bank. He bought gifts for everyone. He handed out money to family members like it was candy. He also leased restaurant spaces for his siblings, bought a car lot for his brother, and even got himself an airplane, despite not needing or knowing how to fly one. Within just 3 months, he had burned through so much that he was already $500,000 in debt. And that's not even the worst part. He bought a $395,000 mansion to match the lifestyle he thought he could keep up. But the cost of keeping a mansion further emptied his bank account. Then came the drama. The woman who had helped him buy those tickets sued him for a cut. The court agreed to her claim, and that cost him another $5.5 million. As if that much betrayal wasn't enough, his own brother tried to have him killed for the money. You would think that would be rock bottom, but no. Bud later got into legal trouble himself after shooting at a creditor. He ended up serving time and came home to nothing. In the end, Bud was living off a $450 disability check per month. He had no car, no mansion, no jet anymore, just bills and regrets. When he died in 2006, his fortune was long gone, and his name had become a warning for all the lottery winners. Number 5. Sharon Tirabassi. Sharon Tirabassi was living a regular life in Ontario. She had a small apartment, no car, 3 kids, and not much to her name. Then, out of nowhere, she won the lottery. And not just any win, she took home £8 million, which is about $11 million US. For Sharon, who grew up bouncing between shelters and living off welfare, this was a fairy tale. At first, everything went smoothly. She bought a house, married Vinny, had more kids, and improved her lifestyle. She gifted $1 million to her parents, split almost $2 million between her siblings, and helped friends with rent and business ideas. She even bought rental homes to support other families. So yes, she was quite generous, but not very strategic. She took her friends on trips to Vegas, the Caribbean, and Cancun. So basically everywhere you would go if you felt you had an infinite amount of money. She bought a yellow Hummer, a Mustang, a Dodge Charger, and a Cadillac Escalade all at once. And even when she had cash, she still bought her house with a $360,000 mortgage. Make that make sense. She said she always checked her account while spending. But the number seemed so big, she thought it would never run out. But of course, it did. By year 9, she was down to her last $750,000. The fun slowed down fast after that. Then came more bad luck. Her husband Vinny crashed their car while driving impaired and ended up in jail. They lost the house, moved around a lot, and when he got out, he went right back to prison for driving without a license. Everything just kept falling apart. Now Sharon is back to renting and working part-time. And the shocking part is, she says she is happier this way. But let's be real, if she had held on to that money just a little longer, things might have been very different. Next, we have the story of a lottery winner who lost everything due to her one addiction. Number 4. Evelyn Adams. We are talking about Evelyn Adams. Life gifted Evelyn with something most people only dream about. She won not just 1, but 2 lotteries. That's right, in the mid-1980s, she won twice in New Jersey and took home a total of $5.4 million. You would think that kind of rare luck would guarantee a life of comfort. But no, Evelyn somehow managed to burn through all of it. Instead of putting the money to work, she took it straight to Atlantic City. And not just for a little fun, she became a regular at the casinos. They rolled out the red carpet for her, of course. But those slot machines weren't doing her any favors. She gambled constantly, day after day, and the money disappeared faster than anyone could believe. She didn't invest in anything good, had no savings accounts, just losses. By the time she realized how deep she had gone, it was already too late. Eventually, Evelyn hit rock bottom. The millions were gone. She ended up living in a trailer completely broke, with nothing to show for all that money. It's not even like she lived large. There was no mansion, no yacht, no empire. Just years wasted at casino tables. Now, Evelyn openly admits she regrets it. She says she wishes she had slowed down, made smarter choices, and actually planned for the future. But hindsight, as they say, doesn't pay the bills. Number 3. Gerald Muswagon. Next, we have the tragic story of Gerald Muswagon. In 1998, he bought a $2 ticket and hit the jackpot of $10 million. This much money could have changed his life, but just 7 years later, Gerald was dead with no money to his name. He died by suicide in his parents' garage after a brutal spiral of bad decisions, lost money, and personal tragedy. You see, right after the win, Gerald did what too many winners do. He spent his money like he had an infinite amount of it. He bought sports cars, a giant house that quickly became a non-stop party pad, and expensive gifts for friends. One day, he reportedly bought 8 big screen TVs just to give them away. The spending was wild, but worse, he started getting deep into drugs and alcohol. That money didn't last long. A few years in, Gerald tried to turn things around. He launched his own lumber business called Gerald's Logging, but it failed, so he fell back into his old habits. Partying, wasting money, and running into trouble. In 2000, he led police on a 111 miles per hour joyride in his Chevy Silverado. He ended up in jail for 3 months. After that, it only got worse. His wife passed away. He pleaded guilty to sexual assault. Another 3 months behind bars. By then, he was broke. With 6 kids and no savings, he was working on a farm just to survive. He went from millionaire to doing hard labor just to get by. His cousin later said Gerald didn't have the right people around him. no one helped him manage the money. And his lawyer confirmed it too that Gerald had a hard time adjusting, coming from poverty with very little education or guidance. In 2005, just 7 years after winning the lottery, Gerald took his own life. His fortune was gone, and so was he. Just like Gerald, this next winner had no one who could advise her, so she ended up losing everything she had. Number 2. Suzanne Mullins. Suzanne Mullins won $4.2 million in the lottery back in 1993. For a while, her life changed for good. She chose the smart-looking option of splitting the money into yearly payments for herself, her husband, and her daughter. After taxes, they each received around $47,000 a year. But then Suzanne made a choice that changed everything. Her son-in-law got sick, and he had no insurance, and the treatment was expensive. So Suzanne, trying to help, paid around $1 million for his medical bills. It was kind, yes, but it drained her bank account. A few years in, she was already struggling. So in 1998, she borrowed $200,000 using her future lottery payments as a promise to repay later. She just needed cash sooner. The loan company agreed, no surprise, as that's how they make money. Then the rules changed. In 2000, lottery winners were suddenly allowed to claim the rest of their prize as a lump sum. Suzanne did exactly that. She received the remaining money, but after that, she stopped paying the loan company back. And of course, they noticed. In 2004, they sued her. She owed them $154,000, but when it came time to pay, Suzanne had nothing left. She had no assets, no savings, just debt. The money was gone, and so was the security she thought she had. Suzanne never expected to be broke again, but even with good intentions, the money didn't last. And that's how one woman's winning ticket led her all the way to court. Next, we have a winner who returned to his old job just 8 years after winning the lottery. Number 1. Michael Carroll. Michael Carroll won nearly £10 million in the UK lottery, which is about $13.7 million US. He was just 19 years old at that time and was working as a garbage collector. He didn't even have a bank account or a financial plan at that time, just a long criminal record. He promised he wouldn't spend big, just wanted a small house by a lake so he could go fishing. That promise didn't last long. He started handing out money left and right. He gave $1.37 million US each to his mom, aunt, and sister. After that, he splurged money on cars, parties, gold jewelry, and trips. He even invested $5.35 million into a bond, meant to last him long term, but he didn't follow the plan. He dipped into it early and got hit with huge penalty fees. Pretty soon, we heard the news that he got drunk and smashed windows in town with steel balls launched from his van. That stunt earned him an ASBO and 240 hours of community service. Then he got into more trouble, was sent to jail for a fray, and the press labeled him the Lotto Lout. He once claimed to pay a $178,000 ransom to blackmailers who threatened his family and killed his dogs. After that, he abandoned his mansion and fled town. He went from millionaire to tabloid joke. By 2010, he had no money left. Michael Carroll returned to his old job collecting trash. And when asked about losing it all, he said he had no regrets. But come on, if your win ends with jail time, ransom payments, and your dogs killed in your own yard, maybe a little regret wouldn't hurt. The truth is, money does something to your brain. You suddenly feel like you have to spend as much as you can, as fast as you can. But what's the most anyone has spent on their very first big purchase? Check out the next video to find out.